What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody had a good day. It's Martin Luther King's birthday, 2025. So that's why you see the title the way that it is. Dr. King and his dream. I just want to talk about him in just a few minutes. Just recognize him as he rests in peace on his birthday. You know, growing up in school, we had to do a lot of book reports, and there was a lot of film, and his speech was played over and over. And I asked my son, it was something in the 90s that was part of the history. It was still very much a part of, at least where I was going to school, it was still very much a part of the history of just America. Not just for black people, but just Americans, period. Of course, he was a civil rights leader, but it was just part of the history. And I asked my son today, because I had a feeling that what the answer was going to be. So my son's a junior in high school, and I text him and asked him, when was the last time you heard or seen video of Martin Luther King's speech, the I Have a Dream speech? And he was like, he hadn't. So I guess I was unaware until he told me that they pretty much don't teach history no more, at least at the school he attends. And I'm in a fairly large city in North Carolina, so with several high schools, so I'm sure they kind of running similar curriculum, public school, which it didn't really shock me, but it kind of disappointed me. Just on any level, you know, when you take away the history of even just a product, especially a people, you're trying to erase the past so that eventually no one can actually say who, when, or what, you know, because all the history has been erased. And no one really has to take responsibility or accountability. Not that anyone modern day should have to anyway, but it's just a part of erasing history. They've been doing it since the Bible days anyway, so like I said, it wasn't nothing new. Anytime you take a people captive, you want to erase their history. That's just a part of it. So I wasn't surprised, but I was a little disappointed. Because like I said, just back in the 90s, Martin Luther King was very much talked about, at least in the school that I went to. And one of the things that, of course, he was always appreciated for, being a civil rights leader, was his nonviolent approach. He took a lot of flack from that, even amongst his own contemporaries and peers. He took a lot of flack because it seemed like, you know, when there's a lot of pressure coming and you're still doing this nonviolent thing, and you know, people want to strike back, and he took a different approach. And we see how he ended. We see how his demise ended. His demise ended was actually through violence. But we have to respect him for even taking such a stand. Individually, I don't know if I would have took a stand like that. But we have to respect him for taking a stand. And I feel like, and I think that his speeches and his sayings, I think, will point to the same thing. I feel like that Dr. King was a proponent for all of humanity. He stood for, of course, for what's right for the black people, but I think also that he wanted what was best for all of humanity. And it's even in the I Have a Dream. He really wants what's best for everybody. He wanted everybody to be considered equal. And so that's why on his birthday, I just wanted to take some time and just make mention of him. Of course, YouTube may be another platform. Things always change. But somehow 20, 30 more years, when it's completely removed, they can find all of these things and any books that's left, recordings that's left, videos that's left of anybody that spoke of him, and still kind of have an idea as to what he stood for. He stood for what was right. He stood for justice for all. He stood for equality. He stood for black people being considered equal. And he tried to do it in a nonviolent way, even though he later ended up dying a very violent death to the hands of someone that was against him. But I want to talk about, from his I Have a Dream speech, I want to just bring out maybe 2 points to just leave for food for thought on his birthday. In his I Have a Dream speech, he speaks of he had a dream that his 4 children could live in a nation where they would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. So when he made that speech, he's talking about his 4 children, who obviously, and of course, were black kids. So let's just say his dream for his children was also the same dream for all of the black people. His dream would be that there would be a day coming. Now, if I remember correctly, this speech was early 60s, 62, 63. So that would be 60 years old. 60 years ago, he's kind of speaking of a day that he see in his spirit, that his children or black people would live in a nation where they would not be judged by their skin color, but rather by the content, the substance of their character. I would say on this platform today, and anything that anybody can see years from now, when all of the history may have truly been taken away from the schools, as black people, or as any people, but I will focus on black people right now, as a whole, what is the content of our character? If we are to be judged, not by somebody looking at us and saying, well, that's a black woman or that's a black man, and so now I'm going to become prejudiced and prejudge them based on the color of their skin. If we're not to be judged by that, as a whole, as a group in this nation that we live in. This is his dream. And we are to be judged by the substance of our character. Then I want to ask the question in 2025, from the outside looking in, what is the content of our character as a people? What character are we displaying that we can be judged righteously instead of ignorantly just based on skin color? That's my question. I'm not going to answer that. I can't speak as a whole for all the black people. I'm just asking a question to us. If that's what he wanted, if that was his dream, if that's how we to be judged, and I think that especially those that was alive in that time, and even now when we hear it, he was a very powerful speaker. We're going to be motivated. We're going to be inspired. We all would jump up and say, yes, that's what we want. Don't judge me just by looking at me. I could be way different than just what you think or how you was taught or how you was raised. Don't judge me by my skin color, right? That's what we would say. Be equal with me. Judge me for who I am as a man. Judge me. Okay, well, then as a people, that's what I'm saying right now. As a people, what is the content of our character? And then further down, he's going to talk a little bit about Alabama. And he's going to also have a dream that little black boys, little black girls could join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers. That was his dream. That a day would come where race and color would no longer divide, but that we would be able to join hands, literally or figuratively, as sister and brother. So in 2025, I would again ask the question, how close are we? How close are we to the dream of a man that gave his life and knew that he was going to have to give his life? And these are his words. This is his most famous speech, ending with free at last, free at last. This is his famous speech. How close are we to really, without prejudice, to really, without being a hypocrite, really being able to say, black people, white people alike, that we can stretch our hands and hold one another's hands as true brothers and sisters in the same nation, making us family now. So that's not just words. Brother and sister is a family term, making us family now. I got your back, you got my back, we're in this together. Y'all know what family mean. Those of you that was younger or are younger back in the day, and you may have got into a scuffle with some people, back when you could actually get into a scuffle and live another day. And then you had family. You had an older brother. You had an older sister. Boy, you couldn't wait to get home to tell them. See, I was the oldest, so I remember my brother and sister coming home and telling me, so-and-so's outside, so-and-so family. I go outside as older brother, family. That's what family do. They stick up for each other. They say blood is thicker than water. Family. You could be mad at your sister and not talk to her for 6 months, but you're not gonna let nobody else mess with your sister, the same sister you don't talk to, because families stick together. This is what Martin's dream was, that there would be a day coming. There's a moment in history coming. He probably wouldn't live to see it, but it was in his spirit. There's a moment in history coming where the blacks and the whites can join hands as brothers and sisters. And my question to the YouTube world and to future generations that may see this, because this stuff, the internet is not going nowhere, so technically it will last for a very long time after I'm gone. I'm asking for 2025, how close are we? And years from now, when this video is recouped, somebody that watch it, hopefully my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, ask yourself the same question. How close are We. As of right now, we're 60 years away from that dream from when he first gave it. As of right now, he gave that dream 60 years ago. What's the content of our character as black people? What is the content of our character? What is the substance of our character? And how close are we to being family, brothers and sisters, with the Caucasians of America? Just something to think about. Just food for thought. As you remember, on this day that's got other stuff going on with our new president, other stuff going on with the happiness of those who don't have to lose their TikTok, and then the regular going-ons of the day. Just a little food for thought. This man gave his life for humanity, but in particular for the civil rights of the black people of America. What are we doing with that dream? Are we working towards it, with it, or against it? And we can only answer that individually. So, everybody, hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day. And y'all be blessed.